My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Bioshock 2. Now, I heard amazing things about the first game, but I was still a bit skeptical, so consider me pleasantly surprised that I absolutely loved it. Like, it's one of the best games I've ever played, period. So I started the second game with a lot higher of expectations, but this time it didn't quite live up to them. I do really like this game, but it is more of the same, and some of the changes I really liked, some of the changes not so much. But let's begin talking about the setting and atmosphere, which is the highlight of these games. This game is just dripping with atmosphere. I love walking around and spending time in the city of Rapture. I love looking outside and seeing this whole city underwater. I love the flickering lights throughout. I just love how every inch of this place looks. It's brilliantly designed. But that said, I do think the level design was better in the first game. Like when I look back, I can remember the theater and the garden and the doctor's office and so on and so on. But when I look back on this game, all of it just kind of looks and feels the same way. And I love the way it looks, I love the way it feels, but it's just lacking what the first game had, where each area felt very distinct. And I wish this game had that. That said, I do think the way this game uses the lighting was better handled. Like there are some moments where the lighting goes out entirely and I was on the edge of my seat. It's really intense and it just adds to the atmosphere of the place. And I also love how in this game, you can actually walk on the bottom of the ocean. It's just a small thing, but it really stands out for me. And I love it when you're in an area and it's flooding and you have to run away from the water. I love stuff like that in games, and this game does it very well. And I also love going through areas that are already destroyed. It's just got something about it that really stands out. And I think one aspect of these games that was definitely better in this one was the musical score by Gary Sherman. I do love the music in the first game, but the music here is on a whole other level. It just adds to the horror and to the atmosphere, and it kind of reminds me of the music in Insidious. Just those weird, off-putting sounds. It's really gets under my skin. And I also thought the splicers looked much better here. I thought they were harder to kill and they popped out more and it just added more to the experience. And one small thing I want to mention is that when you walk around, there's all these different typewriters and they look like the typewriters from Resident Evil. So I don't know if it was like a homage to Resident Evil or if it was just a typewriter, but that's the first thing that popped into my head. And let's talk about the gameplay because I once again really like the gameplay. It's more of the same, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm glad this game sticked to its roots. I love the mixture of weapons and powers, and the weapons are all still great. I love the change from winch to drill, and when you kill someone with the drill, it can get pretty bloody. I also love the spear gun instead of the crossbow. They could actually do a lot of damage if you use them properly, and I love how you can get your ammo back. The other guns are still great. Heavy rivets are low-key a very powerful weapon, and the plasmids are for the most part the same, I think. I do like how for telekinetic powers, they have all these explosive tanks throughout the environment, so telekinetic powers come in handy more often. But I did find that my Eve Hydra level dropped way more in this second game than it did in the first. So that did make it more difficult in certain moments. I also thought the best addition to this game was the change up in hacking. I'm going to be honest, I never hacked anything in the first one. I just found it to be too frustrating, it wasn't worth all the pain, so I just skipped out on it. In this game, I actually hacked things because they made it much more accessible. And man, does that ever make a difference? Like, I had way more weapons and money because of that. So that was a great addition. But one change I didn't like was how much more the little sisters get utilized here. I didn't like having to carry them to the vents to get their Adam. I didn't like that. And I never used them to gather Adam from dead people just because you end up spending so much time fighting people off that you waste more ammo than you would have gained. So just not worth it in my opinion. But one thing I loved about the Little Sisters was this one very short sequence where you play as one of them and you make your way through the city of Rapture and you see the city how they see it. And instead of being this gross, grungy place, they see it like a palace where everything is clean and proper, and you've got to get the suit and they see it as a dress. I thought that was such a small detail, but it really stuck with me. And I do think one issue I have with this game is, once again, it's too hard. Like I said, I'm not the best person at it, but there are some times where you get shot twice and you're dead. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like they could give you a bit more health or make their attacks a bit weaker, because it did really frustrate me in certain moments. But my biggest issue with the gameplay is in the last hour where you're working together with Eleanor and she gives you a plasmid that allows you to summon her. And if you summon her, she just comes and takes out all the enemies like that. And I'm just like, wait, is that it? Like, did she just kill everyone? It takes all the fun away from it. So it's like this game's either way too hard in moments or way too easy, and I wish they found that perfect middle spot. But I still got through it, I still beat it, so I guess it wasn't too hard, but in some moments it really felt like it. Also, on the whole Eleanor thing, it doesn't make sense that you reunite, but then she just bails. Yeah, I didn't like that. The story I found to be worse than the first games. Like, the story is not the highlight of these games. You're not going to walk away from them being like, oh yes, the story and characters are just riveting. No, nobody's like that. But I think the first game has a simplicity to it, while still having a proper amount of twists and turns that, even though the story isn't the priority, I still found it to be quite good. While here, I just never really cared about it. Like, the first game is about this guy, he's in a plane crash and he discovers this underwater city, while here, you're a big daddy who had a little sister and then she gets taken from you and you kill yourself, but then you wake up all these years later and you're looking for her. I feel like it's reliant on me having some sort of emotional connection to Eleanor, but I just couldn't have cared less about reuniting with her. And even at the end of the game, where maybe you do reunite with her, I didn't find it to be emotionally satisfying in any way, shape, or form. I also think that there's some wasted potential because they introduce some really complex ideas, but they never explore them. So I would have liked it if they did that. But that said, I still love the lore. I love picking up the tapes and listening to what happened. I love seeing familiar names and faces from the first game. Kind of like when you play Resident Evil and you Resident Evil 3, and you get to the police station and you're like, oh my goodness, it's the police station from the second game. There was a few moments where I had that reaction in this one. But look, I still really enjoyed this game. Yes, it's more of the same, for better and for worse. But I still love this world, I love this lore, I love this gameplay, and most importantly, the setting and atmosphere of these games is just unlike anything else. It keeps you on edge. The lighting and the music just enhance that feeling. And yes, I do think the biggest issue is that I wish some level layouts stood out a bit more. The story isn't great, and sometimes it just feels like you're doing things for the sake of it. Some of the new gameplay inclusions, like the Big Sisters, oh my goodness, the Big Sisters, I didn't even touch on that. They were a pain in the ass to kill. Like, right before they show up, you're on edge, it really gets to you, but when you actually have to fight them, I just found them to be so bloody annoying. I really did. I didn't like killing the little sisters, and I feel like Eleanor being introduced in the last hour of the game takes away all the fun. Like, I really wish I didn't use her. But it must be said that the new hacking is a huge improvement, and I really did like walking on the bottom of the ocean. So no, it doesn't get to the level of the first game, but I still had a blast playing it. I still love so much about this game, so I'm going to go ahead and give Bioshock 2 a 7 out of 10. I know it sounds like I was really hard on this game, but the truth is I had a blast playing it. I loved it. There's just a few small things that took away some of my enjoyment. But man, I can't believe Gore Verbinski didn't get to direct his movies based on these games. Like, I think he could have made something just incredible. But have you played Bioshock 2? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.